Good morning, Facebook. This is Sylvia Randolph coming to you once again. Right behind me is the Library of Congress. And if I were to turn my computer just a little bit and face a building that is right behind the Library of Congress, where all of the rubbish is, or right next to the Library of Congress, where all of the rubbish that we've seen, the trees, the trees behind me, we will find the United States Supreme Court. And I must tell you, I know that I have repeated this before. I'm going to repeat this again. I stated it before without giving the foundation of where the information was coming from. But the 14th Amendment and the 4th Amendment are rights that women have, families have, when it comes down to the constitutionality of the foster care system. We must understand that there are certain things that cannot be done. My case, and I pray that people get a chance to actually listen to some of my posts. My case was a clear example of what should not have occurred and how I was protected by the 14th and 4th Amendment, and how the crucial instant need for the Department of Social Services and the judicial system to grab a hold of this understanding and clearly know, caseworkers, you can be brought to trial. Pretty sure you've already been told this. If you're taking courses and you've gone to school for social work, I'm pretty sure that they have given you an awareness of what parental rights are, where your limitations are, and what you are and aren't supposed to be doing. CPS workers, same thing applies to you. When you go out there to do that investigation and that mother says, I want a lawyer present first, you better adhere to it, because she doesn't have to answer any of your questions, and you cannot remove her child if she says no, unless you come back with a warrant, and unless she comes back in order to answer those questions and she's got a lawyer present. We've got to begin to understand how to better enforce this matter. Not to say that we don't want to protect children from being harmed and hurt and endangered and all of those things, but you'd better want to protect yourself. So this actually is something to protect yourself. Because what happened to me, that caseworker, I've already pressed or tried to press charges on her during the time of my case. But unfortunately, Upper Marlboro would not take, I went to make a report about it, they wouldn't take it. Interesting enough, I have a guy coming past this morning out beautifying the lands, the grounds of the Library of Congress, and it's a wonderful thing. It's a beautiful place to come and be and study and gather the information and the facts. It's a sad thing that I've had to do this by myself, unsupported. I'll say unsupported in a way that means that I had to actually have my child taken from me, thinking that what they were doing was correct when it wasn't. And we definitely need to look at this in a larger concept. When I contacted the lawyer and spoke with her supervisor and told her what she wasn't doing, it was kind of ignored. When I contacted the main office, the head director, I was sent a letter, very derogatory letter. But we need to understand, from the community side, that I'm looking at the people walking past, and people have such beautiful dogs when they walk past here. So if you see my eyes, my concentration when it comes down to animals and doggies is the most, very little concentration there. I will stop talking in a minute to look at the dog and and to say good morning to it. But anyways, back to the point that I was making. 14th Amendment and 4th Amendment. To my right is the United States Supreme Court building. We've got to understand, we've got to take seriously the matters of what we're trying to deal with. Some states have incorporated a lot of their constitutional laws into the practice of the process of CPS, the foster care system, and reunification. But we can no longer accept a mother losing her rights because the appointment that she was supposed to have that day in the court was not given to her by the caseworker. An address was changed and she didn't get the mailing. We can't have those things go on anymore. We cannot have a child put in the foster care system without the mother being notified because a family member, while the mother was in the hospital, didn't come and pick the child up. So they called CPS. And in calling CPS, twisted a very, very, very harmful story and made it something that it wasn't. Thus being, my rights were violated and my life has been turned upside down. I told someone the other day, I said, you know, I may be sitting here in this place called Miriam's Kitchen in Washington, D.C., a place where they feed people who are going through times of financial trouble or whatever may be their reason why they became apartmentless or homeless. I said to them, if I wasn't fighting this fight and I had people who really wanted to do the work and had the audacity to stand up for what was correct, you wouldn't even know me. I said, because I wouldn't be making zero amounts of money. I would be making money that I needed to make based on my qualifications and skills. So world, I want you to know that my going and stepping out here and doing this thing and informing and finishing up my degree, but most importantly, having to do my own research, fight my own case in the courtroom because people who are supposed to do these things wouldn't do it. Having to report to the Department of Social Services, the Department of Human Resources, a complaint against both of those workers, one caseworker, one supervisor, only to be told, well, you won't know if there are any actions taken. I said, well, I'm going to inform you of this. And this is what I'm going to tell them. And I told them, I left them a simple message and I said I would pray that the urgency taken to remove my child from me will be the same urgency taken to find out where, who, what, when, and why the situation occurred and why it happened under the premise that it did. And that you take that same urgency and remove that person or those persons from their positions. Because today, it's a child torn from a mother, scarred. We may not know it today, but that's a scar, a deep wound cut into a child. Luckily, she's got a beautiful mom who can help provide strength and moral and ethical value into the understanding of what happened. That's who I am. But she's got a deep cut, a deep wound that's going to one day show its face. And it's going to one day ask the question in some shape or form. It's going to show and present itself. It won't be in a manner that's going to be violent or mentally, but it's going to come out in some way that a mother's going to be able to see and understand and say, I know what the problem is. It happened when you were 5. So that deep wound and that cut can't be band-aid over, can't be bandaged. It has to go through a healing process. That's the kind of scars we put on children when we do foolish things within the system. I told them, I said, it's time that we address the fact that if we don't take seriously what we're doing, and just haphazardly do our jobs because we're there that day. We've got to take a real concern about that. I want to say thank you again, and remember, 14th Amendment and 4th Amendment. These are the things that we have in terms of parental rights, individual rights, as it is based and cupped and placed and written within the Constitution of the United States of America. Let's take foster care, reunification, and adoption a little bit more serious, because today it's a child torn. But as we already know, and the news has already shown us, some other caseworker has had a child to die in their caseload. We can't have that anymore. We don't need it anymore. We need to put people in positions who want to work for the betterment of children. Their safety, they're neglected, making sure they're getting what they need, but most of all, the preservation of families. Have a wonderful day.